I thought I was building a future with her. I handed over everything, my trust, my money, my passport. I told myself she needed me, that we were in this together. But the morning I woke up and found the safe empty, that's when I knew she'd been planning this from the beginning, and I was too damn blind to see it. The sunset was doing that thing it does in Patong, turning the sky into layers of orange and pink, and I couldn't stop staring at her across the table. Ratia, 25 years old, beautiful in a way that made my chest ache, wearing this blue dress that caught the breeze coming off the Andaman Sea. When she laughed at something I'd said, something stupid about Missouri winters and snow tires, I felt something I hadn't felt in 3 years. Alive. That's the only word for it. I felt completely, impossibly alive. "You are funny, man," she said, her English broken in that way that somehow made everything she said sound sweeter. She reached across the table and touched my hand, her fingers warm against my skin. "I like when you talk about America. Sounds so cold there. So much snow. I never see snow before." "It is cold," I said, and I was smiling like a complete idiot. "That's exactly why I'm here. I got tired of shoveling my driveway every winter morning." She tilted her head, studying me with those dark eyes. "You run away from snow?" There was something playful in her expression, something that made me want to open up and tell her everything about myself. "Something like that," I said, taking a sip of my Singha beer. "Running away from a lot of things, I guess." "What you run from?" she asked softly, and her thumb traced small circles on the back of my hand. I wanted to tell her. I wanted to pour out the whole story about Linda, about my ex-wife who'd left me for a 38-year-old physical therapist she met at the gym, about how she'd taken the house we'd lived in for 23 years, taken Cooper the golden retriever, taken half my pension, about how I'd spent the last year and a half sitting alone in a one-bedroom apartment in Springfield, microwaving frozen dinners and watching reruns of shows I'd already seen, wondering if this was all there was left for me, wondering if I was just going to fade away into nothing. But I didn't say any of that. Not yet. Just needed a change of scenery. I said instead. Needed some sun and some perspective. "I think Thailand good place for perspective," she said, squeezing my hand. "Very peaceful here, very beautiful. Like you." I laughed, embarrassed. "I'm 59 years old. I'm not sure beautiful is the right word." "Yes, beautiful," she insisted, her voice firm. "You have kind eyes, kind face. That more beautiful than young man with six-pack and no brain?" I didn't know what to say to that, so I just smiled and looked out at the ocean. The truth was, I'd come to Thailand planning to stay 2 weeks, maybe a month tops. Just me and the beach and a stack of paperback novels. No expectations. No pressure. No one asking me to be anything other than a retired electrician trying to figure out what the hell to do with the rest of his life. But then I'd met Ratia. It was completely by accident. I'd gone to a massage place near my hotel in Patong, one of those simple shops with a hand-painted sign and plastic chairs out front. My back had been killing me from the long flight, and I figured an hour of massage couldn't hurt. She was the one who'd worked on me. For 60 minutes, she'd kneaded the knots out of my shoulders while she asked me questions. Where was I from? What did I do for work? Was I married? Was I traveling alone? Her hands were strong, professional, but her voice was gentle, curious. When I told her I wasn't married, that I was recently divorced, she'd made this small sound of sympathy. "That very sad," she'd said. "But maybe good thing. Maybe you find someone better, someone who see how special you are." I'd laughed at the time, brushing it off, but something about the way she said it, the sincerity in her voice, had stayed with me. I came back the next day, and the day after that. By the third visit, we weren't just talking during the massage. We were talking after, sitting on those plastic chairs outside, drinking cold bottles of water and watching people walk by. She told me about growing up in a small village in Isan, about moving to Phuket 5 years ago to find work, about sending money home to her mother every month. I told her about my work as an electrician, about my daughter who lived in Chicago and barely called, about how strange it felt to suddenly have all this free time and not know what to do with it. By the end of the first week, she'd given me her phone number. "Maybe we get dinner sometime," she'd said, shy suddenly. "If you want, no pressure." I'd wanted to. God, I'd wanted to so badly. And so we did. The first dinner turned into a second. The second turned into a third. And now here we were, 2 weeks after we'd met, sitting at this beachside restaurant, watching the sun sink into the ocean, and she was holding my hand like it was the most natural thing in the world. "I never meet man like you before," she said suddenly, her voice barely audible over the sound of the waves. "What do you mean?" I asked. "Thai man," she said, and something dark flickered across her face. "They no good. They no respect woman. They drink too much. They gamble. They go with other women. They leave when you need them. But you different. You kind. You listen when I talk. You ask me question about my life. You care." I felt my throat tighten. "You're easy to care about, Ratia." She smiled, and I felt something shift deep in my chest, something warm and terrifying and impossible to ignore. "I think I'm falling for you," she said, just like that. No hesitation, no build-up. Just a simple statement dropped into the space between us like a stone into still water. My heart stopped, because part of me, the smart part, the part that had lived 59 years and should have known better, was screaming that this was too fast, that it was too easy, that I needed to slow down and think. But the other part, the part that had been so desperately lonely for so long, the part that had spent 18 months feeling invisible and worthless and used up, didn't care about any of that. That part only cared about how good it felt to hear those words. "I think I'm falling for you too," I heard myself say, and when she leaned across the table, her eyes shining in the fading light, and kissed me, I didn't think about the age gap. I didn't think about the fact that we'd only known each other 14 days. I didn't think about red flags or warning signs or the voice in my head that sounded suspiciously like my ex-wife saying, "Don't be an idiot, you're getting played." I didn't think about any of that. I only thought about how her lips felt against mine, soft and warm and real, and how for the first time since Linda had walked out with her suitcases and her lawyer's phone number, I felt like maybe I wasn't completely broken. Maybe I could still be wanted. Maybe I could still be loved. We walked back to my hotel that night, hand in hand, and she came up to my room. We didn't sleep together, not that first night, but she curled up next to me on the bed, fully clothed, her head resting on my chest, and whispered, "I feel so safe with you, like nothing bad can happen when I'm with you." I kissed the top of her head, breathing in the smell of her shampoo, some kind of coconut scent, and thought, maybe this is it. Maybe this is why I came all the way to Thailand, not for the beaches or the temples or the cheap beer, but for this, for her, for a second chance at something real. I should have known better. I should have listened to that voice in my head. I should have asked more questions, done more digging, protected myself. But I didn't, because I was 59 years old and tired and lonely, and a beautiful 25-year-old woman had just told me she was falling for me, and I wanted that to be true more than I wanted to be smart, more than I wanted to be careful. I wanted it to be true more than I wanted anything in the world. 3 days later, my phone rang while I was sitting on the balcony of my rented condo in Ratia, sipping my morning coffee and watching fishing boats head out into the Andaman. The sun was just starting to warm everything up, and I was feeling peaceful for the first time in years. Then I saw her name on the screen and felt my stomach drop at the sound of her voice. She was crying. "Baby," she sobbed, and the sound of it made my chest tighten immediately. "Baby, I need talk to you. I need your help." "Ratia, what's wrong?" I said, setting down my coffee cup so fast it sloshed onto the table. "Are you hurt? Are you okay?" I okay, she said, but her voice was breaking, hitching between words like she could barely breathe. But baby, I have big problem. Very big problem. My landlord, she said, and I could hear her trying to catch her breath. He come to my apartment this morning. He say I 3 month behind on rent. He say if I no pay, he kick me out. He give me 2 day. Baby, I don't know what to do. I have nowhere to go. 3 months behind. My mind did the math automatically. How much do you owe him? 10,000 baht, she said miserably. I try to pay every month, but my salary from massage shop not enough. After I send money to my mama, after I buy food, I have nothing left. I tell him I pay soon, but he no listen. He say I out by Friday. 10,000 baht. I knew the exchange rate by heart now. That was less than $300 US. Not even enough to cover a week's groceries back home. Ratia, don't worry about it, I said immediately. I'll take care of it. Where are you right now? At my apartment, she said, sniffling. Packing my thing. I so ashamed, baby. I never ask you for money. I no want you think I bad person. I don't think that, I said, already grabbing my wallet and keys. Give me the address. I'm coming right now. 20 minutes later, I pulled up to a run-down apartment building in Patong, the kind of place with peeling paint and laundry hanging from every balcony. Ratia was standing outside with a small pink suitcase, her eyes red and swollen, mascara streaked down her cheeks. When she saw me climb off the motorbike taxi, she ran straight into my arms. "I'm so sorry," she said into my chest, her whole body shaking. "I'm so embarrassed. I never want you to see me like this. I never want you to know I this poor." "Hey, stop," I said, holding her tight and stroking her hair. "You have nothing to be embarrassed about. This happens. It's okay. I've got you." I found the landlord, a pot-bellied Thai man with a sour expression, smoking a cigarette by the stairs. I paid him the money in cash, counting out the bills while he watched me with barely concealed amusement. He said something to Ratia in Thai, something that made her look down at her feet, and then he walked away without so much as a thank you. "What did he say?" I asked. "Nothing," she muttered. "Just mean thing. No matter." I looked at her standing there with her little suitcase, looking so small and lost, and something in me cracked wide open. "Come stay with me," I said. She looked up, her eyes wide. "What? My condo," I said. "It's just me rattling around in there anyway. 2 bedrooms, plenty of space. You don't need to worry about rent or landlords or any of this." "Baby, I can't do that," she said, shaking her head quickly. "That too much. I no want to be burden." "You're not a burden," I said firmly. "I'm offering because I want to, because I care about you, and because honestly, it'd be nice to have some company." She stared at me for a long moment, and then fresh tears spilled down her cheeks. "You the best man I ever meet in my whole life," she whispered. "You like Angel." I laughed, uncomfortable with the compliment. "I'm no angel. Just someone who doesn't want to see you sleeping on the street?" She threw her arms around me and hugged me so tight I thought my ribs might crack. "I promise I be good girlfriend," she said into my shoulder. "I cook for you. I clean. I make you so happy. You never regret this." And just like that, she moved in. The first few days were everything I'd hoped for. She cooked these amazing Thai dishes that filled the condo with smells I couldn't identify but loved anyway. Pad krapao, tom kha gai, green curry that made my eyes water in the best possible way. We'd have coffee together on the balcony every morning, and she'd sit on my lap, one arm draped around my shoulders, telling me about her dreams. "Someday I want to have small shop," she said one morning, watching the sun rise over the palm trees. "Maybe sell clothes, or jewelry, something beautiful, something that make people happy." "That sounds really nice," I said, running my hand up and down her back. "I think you'd be great at that." "You think so?" she asked, turning to look at me with those huge dark eyes. Yeah, I do. You've got good taste. And you know how to talk to people. She kissed my forehead. Maybe you help me. When I'm ready, you can be my partner. I'd like that. In those moments, sitting there with her in my arms, the ocean breeze coming through the open doors, I felt like maybe I'd finally found something real, something worth protecting. But after about a week, small things started to change. I'd wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning and find the bed empty beside me. The first time it happened, I panicked, thinking she'd left. But then I saw the light from her phone illuminating the living room. She was sitting on the couch, typing rapidly, her face serious and focused. "Hey," I said, rubbing my eyes. "You okay?" She jumped like I'd scared her, then quickly locked her phone. Yes, I fine. Just can't sleep. Who are you texting at 3 in the morning? I asked, trying to keep my voice light and casual. Her expression shifted, something defensive crossing her features. My cousin. She have problem with her boyfriend. She asked my advice. Oh, I said. Is everything okay? Yes, fine, she said shortly. Go back to bed. I come soon. But she didn't come back to bed for another hour. And when she finally did, she turned her back to me and didn't say a word. I lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, telling myself I was being paranoid. She was young. She had friends. She had a life outside of me. It was normal for her to text people. It would have been weird if she didn't. But the late-night phone sessions kept happening. 2, 3, 4 times a week, always at odd hours, always with the screen angled away from me if I walked by. And whenever I asked about it, she'd give me the same defensive look and say it was her cousin, her friend, her mother. One morning, about 2 weeks after she'd moved in, I tried to look at her phone while she was in the shower. I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know what I expected to find, but I picked it up from the kitchen counter, and it was locked with a 6-digit passcode I didn't know. I heard the water shut off and quickly put it back down, my heart racing like I'd been caught doing something criminal. You looking for something? She asked, appearing in the doorway in a towel, water dripping from her hair. Just checking the time, I lied. She stared at me for a moment too long, then walked past me into the bedroom without saying anything. That night at dinner, she was quiet. Is something wrong? I finally asked, pushing my rice around my plate. You tell me, she said, not looking up. What do you mean? You checked my phone this morning, she said flatly. Why? I wasn't checking your phone, I said, which was technically true. I'd picked it up, but I hadn't checked it. I was just looking for the time. You have your phone, she said, finally meeting my eyes. You have clock on wall. You no need my phone for time. I felt my face get hot. Ratia, I wasn't trying to invade your privacy. Then why you touch it? She asked, her voice rising. You no trust me? You think I lie to you? No, I don't think that, I said quickly, even though part of me absolutely did think that. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have touched your phone. It won't happen again. She stood up from the table, leaving her plate half full. I'm going to take shower, she said. I need to be alone. She locked the bathroom door, and I sat there feeling like the world's biggest asshole. The next morning, she was sweet again. She made me coffee, kissed me on the cheek, and curled up in my lap like nothing had happened. I sorry I get upset yesterday, she said softly. I have bad experience with Thai man. They always very jealous, always check my phone, always accuse me of thing I no do. I no want you be like them. I'm not like them, I said, relief flooding through me. I trust you. You promise? She asked, looking up at me with those big eyes. I promise, I said, and I meant it, or at least I wanted to mean it. But that afternoon, she came to me with her phone bill. Baby, she said, showing me the screen. I need pay my phone. It 500 baht. Can you help? Yeah, of course, I said, pulling out my wallet. 500 baht was nothing. 15 bucks. The next day, she needed money for groceries. 3 days later, she needed to send money to her mother for medicine. Every time, she'd show me some official-looking notice or text message. Every time, she'd cry a little and apologize and promise she'd pay me back. And every time, I'd hand over the cash and tell her not to worry about it, because I had the money, and she needed help, and I wanted to be the guy who could help her. I wanted to be the guy who made her life easier, the guy she couldn't live without. But in the back of my mind, that voice was getting louder. The voice that sounded like my ex-wife. The voice that said, "You're being used. You're being played. Wake up." I didn't listen. Because listening would mean admitting I'd made a mistake. And I couldn't afford to admit that. Not when I'd already given up so much. Not when I'd already fallen in so deep. It happened on a Tuesday afternoon. I was reading on the couch when Ratia came over and sat on my lap, wrapping her arms around my neck in that way that usually made me feel like the luckiest guy in the world. "Baby," she said, her voice playful and light, "I have surprise for you." "Yeah?" I said, setting my book down on the coffee table. "What kind of surprise?" "I want to take you to Koh Samui," she said, her eyes bright with excitement. "For your birthday next month. I already look at hotel. We go for 3 days, just you and me. Very romantic. My birthday. I'd completely forgotten about it. I was turning 60 in 2 weeks, and I hadn't given it a single thought. "You don't have to do that," I said, touched by the gesture. "It's expensive." "I want to," she said, kissing my forehead. "You do so much for me. You take care of me. You save me from landlord. You let me live here. You give me everything. I want to do something special for you." I felt a lump forming in my throat. "That's really sweet, Ratia. That means a lot. But I need your passport," she said, her fingers playing with the hair at the back of my neck. "To book hotel, they ask for copy. For security." "My passport?" I said, and she nodded. "Yes, all hotel in Thailand need passport copy for foreigner, is normal." She was right. I'd had to show my passport at every hotel I'd stayed at since arriving in Thailand. It was standard procedure. "Okay," I said, and I stood up, gently moving her off my lap. "Let me grab it." I went to my dresser in the bedroom and pulled out my passport from the top drawer where I'd been keeping it. It felt heavier than I remembered. This little blue book that represented my entire identity, my ability to move freely, my ticket home if I ever needed it. I brought it back to her, and she took it with a smile, tucking it carefully into her purse. "Thank you, baby," she said. "I book everything tonight. Make sure we get nice room with ocean view." That night, after dinner, she brought it up again. We were sitting on the couch, watching a Thai soap opera I didn't understand, her legs draped across my lap, when she turned to me suddenly. "Baby, you have safe in this condo?" she asked. "In the closet," I said. "Why? I see you keep lot of cash in your drawer," she said, her brow furrowed with concern. "In bedroom. When I put away your laundry today. That not safe. Someone can break in. Someone can steal." My stomach tightened. She was talking about the $80,000 I'd withdrawn from my bank 3 weeks ago. I'd been planning to buy a small beachside bungalow I'd seen listed in Ratia. It needed work, but the price was right, and I'd been dreaming about having my own place here. A permanent spot where I could watch the seasons change, where I could build something stable. I'd been keeping the cash wrapped in an old t-shirt in my dresser drawer, which I knew was stupid. But I'd been planning to move it. I just hadn't gotten around to it yet. "You're right," I said. "I should put it somewhere safer." "You should put in safe," she said firmly. "With your passport. Everything important you keep in safe. That way, nobody can take." It made sense. Perfect sense. And I felt foolish for not thinking of it myself. Good idea, I said. Let's do that now. We went to the bedroom together, and I pulled the safe from the closet. It was one of those digital hotel safes, the kind with a keypad and a combination lock. I opened it with the factory default code, which I'd never bothered to change. Ratia watched as I unwrapped the cash from the t-shirt and counted it out. $80,000 in $100 bills. So much money, she said softly, her eyes wide. You very rich man. Not rich, I said, uncomfortable with the word. Just careful. I've been saving my whole life. You work hard, she said, touching my shoulder. You deserve this money. You deserve good life. I placed the cash in the safe, along with my passport, everything important in one place. Just like she'd said, you need to set new combination, she said, leaning over my shoulder to look at the keypad, so nobody can guess. You're right, I said, and I started to punch in a number, but she stopped me. Wait, baby, you let me do it. I remember number better than you. You always forget thing. It was true. I'd forgotten my daughter's birthday last year. I'd forgotten my own anniversary with Linda more times than I could count. My memory wasn't what it used to be. Okay, I said, stepping back. You said it. She leaned in, her body pressed against mine, and carefully entered a 6-digit code. I tried to watch what she was typing, but her hand blocked my view. When she was done, she wrote something down on a piece of paper and folded it carefully. I put this in my purse, she said, so we both know where it is, but you no worry. I remember number. I no forget. What is it? I asked. You want me to write it down too? No need, she said quickly. I tell you later. Right now, just know it's safe. Everything protected. She closed the safe door, and I heard the lock click into place. That night, something felt off. She went to bed early, saying she had a headache. When I climbed in beside her an hour later, she was facing the wall, her body tense and rigid under the thin sheet. I reached out to touch her shoulder, and she flinched slightly. You okay? I asked softly. Fine, she said, her voice flat. Just tired. Okay, I said, and I lay there staring at the ceiling fan spinning slowly above us. The next morning, everything was back to normal. She made me breakfast, fried eggs and toast, and kissed me on the cheek. Good morning, my handsome man, she said, smiling brightly. You sleep good? Yeah, I said, though I hadn't. I'd tossed and turned for hours, unable to shake the feeling that something had changed. You feeling better? Much better, she said, pouring me coffee. I think just too much sun yesterday. Made my head hurt. She sat across from me at the little kitchen table, and we ate together like we did every morning. Everything seemed fine. Normal. So why did I feel like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, looking down into darkness? I pushed the feeling away, told myself I was being ridiculous, paranoid. This was Ratia, the woman I loved, the woman who'd told me I was special, who'd made me feel alive again. She wouldn't hurt me. She couldn't. 2 days later, Ratia came to me with tears streaming down her face. I was on the balcony reading when she burst through the sliding door, her phone clutched in her hand, sobbing so hard she could barely breathe. Baby, baby, I need your help, she cried, and my heart immediately started pounding. What happened? Are you hurt? I said, jumping up from my chair and grabbing her by the shoulders. It my cousin, she gasped between sobs. Knock. She in big trouble. Very big trouble. What kind of trouble? I asked, guiding her to sit down in my chair. Tell me what's going on. She borrow money from Loan Shark, Ratia said, her whole body shaking. In Bangkok. She need money for her baby. Baby very sick. Need medicine. But now she can't pay back. They say they hurt her. They say they hurt her baby. They come to her house yesterday. They break her door. They threaten her. My stomach dropped. I'd heard stories about loan sharks in Thailand, about the violence, about people getting beaten, or worse. How much does she owe? I asked. 50,000 baht, she said, looking up at me with red, swollen eyes. I ask my family, but they no have money. My mama poor, my brother poor. I only have you. Please, baby. Please help her. I beg you. 50,000 baht. I did the math in my head. About 1,500 US dollars. It was a lot, but not impossible. Can she go to the police? I asked. No, Ratia said quickly, her voice rising in panic. Police no help. Police corrupt. They friends with loan shark. They make it worse. Please, baby. This only way. I hesitated. Something felt wrong about this. Something felt off. But I looked at her face, at the genuine terror in her eyes, at the way her hands were shaking, and I couldn't say no. Okay, I said slowly. I'll help, but I need to talk to her first. I need to make sure this is real. Ratia's expression changed, just for a second. Something cold flickered across her face, something that made my blood run ice. But then it was gone, replaced by more tears. You think I lie? She said, her voice breaking. You think I make this up? This my family, baby, my cousin, my blood. You think I joke about her life? I didn't say that, I said quickly, backpedaling. I just want to understand the situation better. That's all. You know, trust me, she said, standing up suddenly. After everything I do for you, after I take care of you, cook for you, love you, you still think I bad person. You think I liar. Ratia, that's not what I meant, I said, reaching for her hand, but she pulled away. You just like all the other man, she spat. You say you different, but you same. You no understand Thai people. You no understand family. You no understand nothing. Please, I said, my chest tight with panic. I do trust you. I'm sorry. I'll help. Whatever you need. Her expression softened immediately, and she threw her arms around me. Thank you, baby, she whispered into my neck. Thank you so much. You saved my cousin life. You saved her baby. I never forget this. Never. That afternoon, I went to a money transfer place in Patong and wired $5,000 to an account she gave me. The whole time, my hands were shaking. The woman behind the counter asked if I was sure about the transfer, if I knew the person I was sending money to. Yes, I said, even though I wasn't sure about anything anymore. When I got back to the condo, Ratia was waiting for me. She kissed me deeply, passionately, in a way she hadn't in weeks. You are best man in world, she said, her eyes shining. I so lucky to have you. But the next day, she was distant again. Cold. When I asked if her cousin was okay, if the money had helped, she snapped at me. Why you always ask so many questions? She said, her voice sharp. You no understand. This private family matter. I tell you when I ready. I backed off. But a week later, she came to me again. This time it was her mother. She needed an operation. The hospital wouldn't treat her without payment up front. $3,000. Then it was her brother. He'd lost his job and couldn't pay his rent, $2,000. Then a friend whose motorbike had been stolen. Then another cousin who needed to pay off a debt. Every single time, there was an emergency. Every single time, she cried and begged and told me I was her only hope. And every single time, I gave her the money, because I was terrified that if I didn't, she'd leave. And I couldn't handle being alone again. I couldn't go back to that apartment in Springfield, to those frozen dinners and empty rooms and the crushing weight of my own worthlessness. So I kept giving, kept believing, kept telling myself that once things settled down, once her family was okay, everything would go back to the way it was. But nothing ever settled down. The emergencies kept coming, and the money kept flowing out, and I kept waking up at 3 in the morning, staring at the ceiling, wondering how much longer I could keep this up, wondering when it would all come crashing down. One evening in early September, Ratia came to me as I was making dinner. "Baby," she said, her voice soft, "I need to go visit my mama in Chiang Mai. She very sick. I need to see her." "I'll come with you," I said immediately, turning off the stove. "We can leave tomorrow." "No," she said quickly, "you can't come." "Why not?" I asked, confused. "I want to meet your family. I want to help. My mama, she no like Farang," Ratia said, looking down at her feet. "She old-fashioned. She no trust Western man. If you come, it make everything more difficult." "What?" I said, feeling like I'd been slapped. "Ratia, we've been together for months. Don't you think it's time I meet your family?" "Not yet," she said firmly. "Not until she ready. I go alone. I come back in 3 days. You be okay?" But I could see the determination in her eyes, and I knew I'd already lost this fight. "Yeah," I said quietly. "I'll be okay." She left the next morning, kissed me on the forehead, grabbed her small bag, and walked out the door. I watched her leave from the balcony, watched her get into a taxi, watched it disappear down the street. And then I was alone. The first day wasn't so bad. I kept myself busy, went to the beach, read a book, made myself dinner, tried her phone a few times, but it went straight to voicemail. The second day was harder. I texted her. No response. I called again. Nothing. By the third day, I was starting to panic. Where was she? Why wasn't she answering? Was her mother okay? Was she okay? On the fourth day, I broke down and messaged one of her friends on Facebook, a girl named Som who I'd met once at a bar in Patong. "Hey, do you know where Ratia is?" I wrote. "She said she was going to Chiang Mai to visit her mom, but I haven't heard from her in days." Som replied an hour later, and her message made my blood turn to ice. "She, not in Chiang Mai." Som wrote, "She in Pattaya. I see her post photo yesterday. She with her boyfriend." Boyfriend. The word hit me like a punch to the gut. I couldn't breathe. I opened Ratia's Facebook profile, something I'd never done before because I'd trusted her, because I'd believed her when she said Thai people didn't use Facebook much. But her profile was public, and it was full of photos. Photos of her in Pattaya, photos of her with a man, a Thai guy, young and handsome, his arm wrapped around her waist. Both of them, smiling at the camera like they didn't have a care in the world. I scrolled through the photos, each one feeling like a knife in my chest. There were dozens, going back months, going back to before she'd even met me, before she'd worked on my back in that massage shop, before she'd told me I was special. They were together. They'd been together the whole time. I felt like I was going to be sick. I stood up from the couch, my legs shaking, and walked to the bedroom, to the closet, to the safe. I punched in the combination I thought she'd set. The screen flashed red. Wrong code. I tried again, my hands trembling. Red. I tried every combination I could think of. Her birthday, my birthday, the date we'd met, the date she'd moved in. Nothing worked. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might explode. I grabbed my phone and called a locksmith. "Please," I said when he answered, "I need you to come right now. It's an emergency." He arrived an hour later, a middle-aged Thai man with kind eyes and a weathered face. He looked at me with concern as I explained the situation, carefully leaving out most of the details. He worked on the safe for 20 minutes, drilling carefully, his tools making high-pitched whining sounds that made my teeth hurt. When the door finally clicked open, I felt my knees buckle. Empty. Completely empty. The cash was gone. All $80,000. Gone. My passport was gone. Everything. She'd taken it all. The locksmith looked at me. His expression, sympathetic. "I'm very sorry," he said quietly. "This happened before. Many time. Farang come to Thailand. Fall in love. Lose everything. You need to be more careful. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. I just stood there, staring at the empty safe, feeling the weight of my own stupidity crushing me. After he left, I sat on the edge of the bed and tried to process what had happened. Tried to understand. She'd planned this. From the beginning. From that very first day in the massage shop, she'd seen me coming. A lonely old man with money and no one to spend it on. Easy prey. And I'd made it so easy for her. I'd handed her everything. My trust, my money, my passport, my dignity. I'd given it all away because I was desperate to feel loved. Because I couldn't stand the thought of being alone. I sat there for 3 days, barely moving, barely eating. Just sitting in the empty condo, staring at the walls, replaying every moment, every conversation, every red flag I'd ignored, every warning sign I'd dismissed. On the 4th day, I finally forced myself to get up, to move, to figure out what to do next. Without my passport, I couldn't leave Thailand. I couldn't access most of my bank accounts. I couldn't do anything. I had about 300 baht in my wallet. That was it. That was all I had left in the world. I took a bus to Bangkok, 6 hours of sitting in a cramped seat with my thoughts spinning in circles, and went to the U.S. Embassy. The woman behind the desk looked at me like I was just another idiot who'd gotten himself into trouble. "It'll take 3 to 4 weeks to process a replacement passport," she said, her voice flat and professional. 3 weeks? I said, my voice cracking. I can't wait 3 weeks. I don't have any money. I can't even afford a place to stay, she sighed. Emergency passports take a minimum of 2 weeks, and you'll need to fill out these forms and pay the processing fee. How much is the fee? I asked. $135, she said. I wanted to laugh. Or cry. I wasn't sure which. I don't have $135, I said. She took everything. Do you have family back in the States who can wire you money? She asked. And for the first time, there was a hint of sympathy in her voice. I thought about my brother in Kansas City. We hadn't talked in almost a year, not since I'd told him I was moving to Thailand. He'd thought I was crazy. He'd told me I was making a mistake, and now I'd have to call him and admit he was right. Maybe, I said quietly. She handed me a stack of forms. Fill these out. Come back when you have the money. We'll process your application as quickly as we can. I left the embassy feeling like a ghost, like I wasn't really there, like none of this was actually happening. I found the cheapest guest house I could find in Phuket town, a place with stained sheets and a shared bathroom and cockroaches that scattered when I turned on the light. It cost 200 baht a night. I had enough money for maybe 4 days. After that, I didn't know what I'd do. I survived on instant noodles from 7-Eleven. 10 baht per pack. I could make my money last longer that way. Every day, I walked around Patong, looking for her, hoping maybe I'd run into her, hoping maybe I could confront her. I went to the massage shop where she'd worked. The owner, a heavy-set woman with tired eyes, looked at me with pity. She quit long time ago, she said, maybe 3-4 months ago. She no come back. Do you know where she went? I asked desperately. The woman shrugged. I don't know. She no say. She just stopped coming. I asked around the neighborhood. Showed people her photo on my phone. Nobody knew her. Or maybe they did, and they just didn't want to tell me. Maybe I was just another stupid Farang who'd gotten what he deserved. One night, I sat in my depressing little room and stared at my phone for 2 hours before finally calling my brother. Hey, Tim, I said when he answered, and my voice sounded hollow even to my own ears. Hey, he said, surprised. I haven't heard from you in forever. How's Thailand? I couldn't speak for a moment, couldn't force the words out. I need help, I finally said. And then I told him everything. He didn't say I told you so. He didn't lecture me. He just listened. And when I was done, he said, I'll wire you $2,000 tomorrow. That enough to get you home? Yeah, I said, and I started crying. Just completely broke down. Thank you. You're my brother, he said simply. That's what family does. 2 weeks later, I finally got the call from the embassy. My emergency passport was ready. I picked it up on a Friday morning, and it felt strange in my hands, lighter than my old passport, like it belonged to someone else, someone I used to be. That night, I walked along Patong Beach one last time. It was crowded with tourists and vendors, and the same old men with young Thai women that I'd seen 100 times before. I watched one couple, an old guy who had to be in his 70s with a girl who couldn't have been more than 25. She had her arm looped through his, smiling up at him like he was the most fascinating person in the world, and he looked so happy, so proud, like he'd won the lottery. I wanted to walk over and warn him. I wanted to tell him to be careful, to protect himself, to not make the same mistakes I did. But I didn't, because maybe she was different, maybe he was different, or maybe he was exactly like me, and nothing I said would matter anyway. Maybe some lessons can only be learned through pain. I sat down in the sand and watched the waves crash against the shore. I thought about Ratia, about the way she'd smiled at me that first night at the restaurant, about the way she'd told me I was special, about the way she'd curled up against me and said she felt safe. I wondered if any of it had been real, if she'd ever cared about me at all, even a little bit, or if I'd just been a job to her, a means to an end, a retirement fund for her and her real boyfriend. I'd probably never know. And maybe that was okay. Maybe not knowing was better than knowing for sure that it had all been a lie. The next morning, I boarded a plane back to Missouri. I didn't look out the window as we took off. I didn't watch Thailand disappear beneath the clouds. I just closed my eyes and tried not to think about anything at all. My brother picked me up from the airport in Kansas City. He gave me a long hug and didn't ask any questions. Just drove me to a small apartment he'd found for me on the outskirts of town. 1 bedroom, a tiny kitchen, a view of a parking lot. It's not much, he said, but it's yours for as long as you need it. It's perfect, I said, and I meant it. The next week, I got a job at a hardware store on Route 40. Nothing fancy, just stocking shelves, helping customers find the right tools, cutting keys, minimum wage. But it was something. It was a purpose. It kept me from sitting alone in my apartment, thinking about everything I'd lost. People at work asked where I'd been. Traveling, I'd say. And they'd smile and nod and move on. Nobody pushed. Nobody wanted the real story. And I was grateful for that. At night, I'd lie in bed and think about her. Not with anger, not with longing, just with a kind of dull acknowledgement. She took my money. She took my passport. She took my dignity. But she also taught me something I'd needed to learn for a long time, that wanting to be loved doesn't mean you are loved, that giving everything away doesn't make you generous, it makes you reckless. That being alone is scary, but being used is worse. I don't regret going to Thailand. I regret thinking I could buy my way out of loneliness. I regret believing that a 25-year-old woman could fill the hole my ex-wife left behind. I regret not seeing what was right in front of me the whole time, but I don't regret surviving it. One night, about 6 months after I got back, I was lying in bed when my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. Hi, baby. I miss you. I think about you every day. I'm so sorry for what I do. Can you forgive me? I still love you. I stared at the message for a long time. Part of me wanted to respond, wanted to ask her why, wanted to tell her what she'd done to me, wanted to hear her explain herself, but I didn't. I deleted the message. I blocked the number, and I went to sleep. Because I didn't owe her anything anymore. Not my forgiveness, not my anger, not even my attention. She was gone, and so was the man who'd let her take everything. I'm not the same person I was when I landed in Thailand over a year ago. I'm quieter now, harder, I don't trust as easily. I don't open up as fast. I don't believe people when they tell me I'm special, because I know now that special is just a word people use when they want something. But I'm also stronger. I know what I'm worth now. And I know that being alone is better than being with someone who sees you as nothing more than a means to an end. Sometimes, late at night, I still think about her. About the way she smiled at me on that first night by the beach. About the way she said my name. About the way she made me feel, even if it was all a performance. And I wonder if she ever thinks about me. If she ever feels guilty. If she ever looks at that money and remembers the man who gave her everything. But then I remember something my brother told me when I first got back. We were sitting in his kitchen, drinking coffee, and I was telling him I didn't know how to move on, how to let go. The best revenge, he said, is moving on, living well, proving to yourself that you're more than what happened to you. So that's what I'm doing. I'm moving on. Not because I've forgiven her, not because I've forgotten, but because I'm tired of carrying her with me everywhere I go. I left Thailand with nothing, no money, no passport, no pride, but I came home with something I didn't have before. I came home knowing who I really am when I'm desperate, when I'm lonely, when I'm willing to ignore every warning sign because I want something to be true so badly. And that knowledge is worth more than the $80,000 she took from me. Because now, when I look in the mirror, I don't see the man who got conned. I see the man who survived it. And that man is someone I can respect, someone I can live with, someone who won't make the same mistakes again. She took almost everything from me, but she couldn't take that. And in the end, that's all that really matters.